Hey, how's it going YouTube? I'm back in that video, and today I'm going to be talking about the real reason Anthony Davis wants to be traded from the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, over the past few weeks and really days, there have been tons and tons of reports heating up the fact that Anthony Davis is coming to get traded. It started off with reports saying David Griffin is going to start taking in trade offers. Then it got to be who the front runners are, which is the Lakers and the Knicks, where Anthony Davis wants to stay. And now we have seen reports that they could make a trade by the end of this weekend, and that is when they want to make a trade. So, I mean, the landscape of the NBA could be changed drastically very, very soon, but I'm not going into the potential package or nothing like that. I'm beginning to why would Anthony Davis even want to be traded and everything. So yeah, I'm beginning to all of that. I'm beginning to like what he did before he wanted to trade, and then how he changed after he wanted to trade. I'll be getting all of that. So if you do like the video at any point, like button and subscribe button mean the absolute world to me. And also, that's going to be it for this intro. So without further ado, without rambling on too much, let's get right into this video. Alright, so the first thing I'm beginning into for this video is going to be pretty much why I think he requested a trade. And I think the biggest reason he did request a trade is when he hired Rich Paul, and that's when he really decided, okay, I want to get out of here. Or maybe not even that, but that's pretty much when it pretty much was confirmed and that his fate was set that he was going to be getting a trade from the New Orleans Pelicans. So I'm beginning to how Anthony Davis was before he hired Rich Paul, like how it was going with the Pelicans and everything, and how people saw him, and then after he hired Rich Paul, how his mood changed, and I'm giving some other reports that support that as well, that his mood did change and everything. So now let's get into pretty much what was he before Rich Paul? What did he do? Well, before Rich Paul came, Anthony Davis was known as a very quiet but very loyal player in the NBA. As I mean, Anthony Davis, let's be honest, I mean, outside of being absolutely dominant and putting up great seasons, no one really talked about him as a personality or like ever causing locker room problems, talking trash, nothing like that. So I mean, he was a very quiet player, and I mean, he was very, very loyal, as over and over and over again, he always talked about how he was committed to winning in New Orleans. He wanted to win in New Orleans. He wanted to be like Tim Duncan and win with the team that drafted him. So, I mean, there was a lot of people that really expected Anthony Davis to spend his entire career with someone with the Pelicans who drafted him. And I mean, Anthony Davis, before he hired Rich Paul, no one really expected anything different. Anthony Davis kept saying in interviews how he wants to win with us. He was focused strictly on business, and that he wanted to stay with the Pelicans. He never said anything before Rich Paul came that would inquire you to think that he wants to leave, that he wants to request a trade, especially not to request a trade in the way that he did. No one expected that at all. But now, after he hired Rich Paul, you could really tell that it was a different Anthony Davis you were dealing with, because I mean, after he signed him to be his agent, almost immediately made a very, very public and hard trade request to the New Orleans Pelicans, as he wanted to be traded, and he made it public before the trade deadline, which hurts the Pelicans a ton because that takes away their leverage. And on top of putting a time limit on when he wanted to be traded, he also made a list of the teams that he would re-sign with and the ones he won't re-sign with. So not only are you putting a time limit on your team, but you are also putting them in a bad situation, because now you don't, instead of having the entire NBA to trade with, now you only have these few select teams that you said you would re-sign with if you were traded there. So I mean, that really hurts the Pelicans a lot. And the Anthony Davis we knew before Rich Paul would have never done that. He didn't want to hurt the organization in any way. Everybody expected, even if he did request a trade, for it to be very private, and they're going to just like quietly work behind the scenes and trying to find a trade for him and everything. But I mean, he went to a complete opposite route, and I mean, I can't help but think that Rich Paul at least had a little bit of a hand in doing that, because I really don't think a stretch, because this is where he requested a trade, a stretch where they went 22-26. So yes, they had a losing record in that stretch, but I mean, that's not a horrible record by any means, and you could still definitely bounce back from that. I don't think that stretch is what provoked him into requesting a trade. I think Rich Paul was in his ear a lot, really telling him, hey, you have to get out of here, you have to get in a bigger market, you have to get in a winning market, your legacy matters, and all of that. I think he was in his ear a whole bunch, telling him all kinds of stuff like that, and I mean, I really just think that, I mean, he wouldn't have went as publicly and as hard on the Pelicans as he did if it wasn't for Rich Paul. And another thing that we saw him do, which, I mean, no one expected, was in the very last game of the season, he wore a "That's All Folks" shirt. Now, the loyal Anthony Davis that was committed to winning, even if he did request a trade before Rich Paul, I can guarantee you he wouldn't have done something as blatantly disrespectful as that was to the organization. There was no chance by any means that he would ever do that. As I mean, before that, he was literally never in the news for being controversial controversial. And now, I mean, you hire Rich Paul, not even a year later, your last game of the season, he's wearing a "That's All, Folks," being very controversial and being all over the news and sports news for wearing that shirt. And I mean, a lot of people did have a problem with that because, I mean, that is kind of disrespectful. And the city of New Orleans, now being from Louisiana, the city of New Orleans, if you're on their sports team, they're extremely loyal to you. Even if you have a bad relationship with them, they'll still be loyal to you and like you. But the city has flipped on Anthony Davis, which I've never really seen before. The city has completely flipped on Anthony Davis, and it's due to how disrespectful he was to the team, how he handled the situation, and I mean just how blatantly he wants to be out and how he's not respecting the team at all. So the city has completely flipped on him, which I've never seen, and I think if he did not have Rich Paul, there is no way that he would do all that, and he would probably still have a good relationship with the New Orleans Pelicans and New Orleans in general. But now this is even supported, so don't even just take it from me. Don't be, oh, what does this guy know? How does he know Rich Paul did all this? Well, I mean, take it from a reporter that follows Anthony Davis and the Pelicans very, very closely. As on, I think it was pretty sure First Take, or First Things First, something like that. A reporter that follows the Pelicans very, very closely was quoted in saying this: "I love Anthony Davis. His family is practically family to me. I've been shocked at the behavior from the time he hired Rich Paul. You have seen a market change in his behavior, wearing a 'That's All, Folks' t-shirt in the last game of the series, and that's just not Anthony Davis." And that was the full quote by this woman that was very close to Anthony Davis. And I mean, I think she shares the same opinion, being like, well, I mean, Anthony Davis at one point in his career, not very controversial, very quiet, and very fun to be around. He was family to her. He really saw everything like with the Pelicans. He wanted to stay there. He hires Rich Paul. His market changed. He wants to be in a big market. He wants to get paid, which doesn't make any sense because he would make more money with the Pelicans, but whatever. So he wants to get in a big market. He wants to win games, which he was doing with New Orleans Pelicans. I think Rich Paul is just completely in his ear wanting him to get out of New Orleans in general. And I just don't think by any means without Rich Paul would this have all happened. Now, yes, he still might have requested a trade, but I don't think it would be to this magnitude or anywhere near it. I think Rich Paul is the reason and the master behind all this dumpster fire from the Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans, as both their years were pretty much ruined by these trade rumors. So I mean, with a whole bunch of this going down, I really think the real reason that Anthony Davis wanted to trade was due to Rich Paul and not due to the actual play of the New Orleans Pelicans. But unfortunately, guys, I'm just for this video, so comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think Anthony Davis requested a trade mostly due to Rich Paul? You think Rich Paul was the one behind all this? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you did like the video at any point, like button and subscribe button, it'd mean the absolute world to me. And I hope you have a blessed day. Kid, had a blessed day, so you need to have a blessed day. See you in the next video. Goodbye, boo. Blah, blah, blah.